Welcome back to my next video. We are in for a treat. I have been wanting to shoot a video of someone who lives or at least travels extensively in a Tesla for a long time, and finally I get to do it. The owner of this car her privacy is really important to her, and so you will never see her, and we're going to do everything we can to, and you will not be able to identify her. Sadly, that's a common situation in this country, women who can't be themselves on video. So we're going to call her Kira. That's not her name, but that's what we're going to call her. And Kira's mic'd, and so Kira, can you say hi to the folks at home?
Hi, everyone.
And you live, well, that's not true. You spend a lot of time sleeping in a Tesla. Tell us how much time you spend in the Tesla.
Well, I still do own a home back in Colorado. It is a rental property for me now, so it is income property for me. So I do still maintain my residency there. I have 2 kids in college, so I need to maintain my residency there and a few keepsakes. But basically, that's a place to spend the night when I'm in the area. But otherwise, I'm in the Tesla unless, there's some family thing or something going on. So this is about 15 months that I've had the car and have been traveling extensively. So I call it traveling indefinitely.
Right. And so out of 15 months, 10% would have been in actual home, you think, maybe? Or?
Well, I had some pretty serious medical things this year, so unfortunately it was a little bit more than that, but had that not been an issue, I would have been in it every single night of the year. So
if the question is, can you live in a Tesla, your answer is yes, you can.
Absolutely. It's delightful.
And I guess the question everyone out there is thinking to themselves, is that woman crazy? So, and of course I'm just teasing. I got a big smile on my face. Really, truly, you're happy living in a Tesla?
I am, and there's a couple things that make it possible. First, I want to dispel the myth that Teslas all cost over $100,000. They don't. This one was about $50,000, and they do start at $35,000. So it's a lot more reachable than you might think. The great thing about any electric vehicle, but this one in particular, is that I have extremely cheap heat and air conditioning whenever I want it. So I think of it as a mobile hotel room. I also work on the road. I'm not of retirement age. And so I'm able to charge everything. I'm carrying around a 75 kilowatt hour battery. So I have all the power I need. And I'm completely paperless in my life. So that's a huge part too. Everything I do is online. Every important paper that I need, I have digitally.
Wow. And so you can get a Tesla for as little as $35,000.
Yes.
That is pretty amazing, because anymore, $35,000 for a car is routine. I mean, it's not extreme. I mean, you can get them for less, of course, but it's not extreme.
And when you figure in that power, even at the most expensive way to get power, which is at the superchargers, is about 20% the cost of gas, it very quickly ends up being a reasonable financial decision. And I've gone about 40,000 miles in the last 15 months.
Wow.
In travel. So
40,000 miles living in a Tesla. Wow. In 15 months. That's really amazing. And you mentioned, let's talk about the charging, because that's a big question people have. If you don't own a home, and you own a home but it's in another state and you don't spend much time there, how do you charge it? And you mentioned superchargers. So for the folks at home that don't know what that is, what is a supercharger and where do you charge the vehicle?
So the superchargers are made by Tesla. They're extremely big chargers. There's a supercharger about every 100 to 200 miles on the major highways. This car has a range of 300 miles, so it's no problem to go from supercharger to supercharger. You just plug the car in. The car is recognized by the charger. It has your credit card on file. And in 15 to 30 minutes, you have another 200, 250 miles to get back on the road and head down the road. I've taken this extremely into the Netherlands of where you wouldn't expect to be able to take a Tesla. The good thing is if you get too far away from a supercharger, you can stop at an RV park and charge at a 50 watt or yes,
50 amp?
50 amps, thank you, 50 amp or even a 30 amp outlet at an RV park. Those do take overnight to do that. And the other option you have, which I do quite a bit, is that a lot of little towns have community centers or libraries that have slow chargers, but they're free. And so I'll often stay in a town overnight, let it charge all night, which then gets me back up. It takes 8 hours to get to the same thing a supercharger could get to in 20 minutes.
20 minutes, wow.
But nobody's going to bother me when I'm sitting at the free charger. And now I've just gotten, 250 miles of free power.
Free. So those chargers are free. Wherever you go, you're not paying anything. So we're in Quartzsite, Arizona right now. We won't be here when you see this video, but that's where we are right now. And I know there are chargers outside the Carl's Jr. You must be familiar. You must know they're there.
And there's a number of times.
And oh, you've been there a number of times.
Yes.
And are those superchargers?
They are. And they're putting in, there's, I think, 6 of them right now. They're putting in another 20
That's right.
stalls there. So it's going to be a very large station.
Of course, Quartzsite is a major stop-off along I-10, and so that's why they would be there. But so you're at all the freeways. You have them every couple hundred miles.
Right. Just from this location, there's one in Yuma. There's one in Ehrenberg. There's one, Phoenix, or a number of ones in Phoenix. So yeah, they're all different directions, and the car tells you where they are. So if you say, I want to go to LA, it'll tell you exactly where they are, what's the most efficient route, and how long you're going to have to stop where to make it to your destination.
If you go to Carl's Jr. and they have the 20-minute charger, superchargers, how much does it cost to charge that up in 20 minutes?
So it costs about 25 cents per kilowatt hour. So in that a kilowatt hour, you can go about 4 miles. So if you were, say, charging it for 200 miles, that's going to cost you about $5.
Wow, $5 for 2 miles, and it takes 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's just enough time to pull in, maybe get a burger, or if it's a gas station. It seems like I just saw one at the Flying J out at Ehrenberg. Is that right?
That's a brand new one.
So you stop in, you get, we would stop in and get gas at a Flying J. It would take you 20 minutes minimum because they're always busy. And you go in, you go to the bathroom, you freshen up, stretch, you walk the dog a bit, and it takes 20 minutes and you're ready to go. That is fantastic. And so how much would it cost? It's $5 and it would be full. Is that a fair?
You don't really, just like a tank of gas, you don't run it all the way down.
Right.
So, I'm typically filling up to 200 to 250 miles.
Okay, so about $5.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm not filling my van up for $5 and going 250 miles. I can absolutely guarantee you that.
And the other interesting thing is I averaged all my charging over the 40,000 miles, and I figured out that with all the times that I charge for free, that I actually dropped my total cost of charging by a third. So
by doing the free,
right, whenever it was convenient.
Right. So maybe you want to stop at an RV park and do your laundry and whatever else. You don't have tanks, but it's nice to stop, take a real shower, and while you're there, say a lot of the RV parks have tent sites. Could you go on a tent site and plug in something there? Can you do it with one tent? I guess that would be the question.
You can, but it only charges 4 miles an hour. So if you can imagine, that would take a really, really long time. If you're desperate, that works. But I have been in a situation where I desperately needed to get back to a certain place, really quickly, and I needed to stop at an RV park. I've just pulled in, plugged in, slept the night. I just got up early before they opened, and I just left a note and said, hey, because the car can tell you how much you charged. Hey, I used 40, kilowatt hours of power. I leave them a quarter per kilowatt, and then I just say, please call me if this is not enough. And I've never had anybody call me, and I've had to do that on a number of occasions. So just try to be considerate of a situation when you just need to charge real quick.
Or worst comes to worst, you pull in and you spend the between $10, $20, $30 to be there overnight and plug in legitimately. That's cheaper than a tank of gas. I can't fill my van for $30 and drive 250 miles.
Absolutely. And I do try to strategize that with, like you said, laundry, a shower. That's the nice thing about where all the chargers are. They always have bathrooms of some sort, either at a hotel or at a gas station. So that's where I just carry a very small bag of trash. I throw my trash away. I get some water. I go to the restroom. I get, something to eat, something to drink, walk my dog. And like you said, I'm back on the road in no time flat.
So for $35,000, if you got into the lowest cost one, and you were really careful, you could practically travel for free. No fuel costs at all.
Yes.
I mean, you'd have to go to only the regular chargers and spend the night. And like you said, you could be right there in the parking lot because you're just charging your car.
Right. And nobody's going to guess that you're in there.
No, not in a Tesla. Who sleeps in a Tesla?
And because I have tinted windows and I can leave the air conditioning or the heater running, my windows aren't going to fog up, nothing. So I don't have to put reflectix or anything up necessarily. I can just keep it looking like a regular car and nobody's the wiser. Right.
So now you got to think about stopping and spending the night to charge is a hotel room, which is $50, $60, $100, and free, you're doing it overnight, so you're doing the free one, free gas and a free hotel room at the same time.
Yes.
$35,000, and you get free gas and free hotel room for the rest. As long as you're careful, I imagine you have to plan that out to know these are free and you're going to be there for a while. You're going to be there overnight.
And there's apps that help you with that. And then also there's people that are willing to share their plugins at their homes. And there's an app for that as well. I was near Glacier up in Montana, and there wasn't really a charger close by. I contacted a guy in the app, said, hey, I'm in the area. Do you mind? He said, oh, it's fabulous. He sent me a copy of some blogs he'd written about traveling in his Tesla. It's kind of a nice community to be a part of.
Right. Wow. Wow. I'm just blown away. And then, of course, a lot of people aren't concerned about it, but there's the environmental impact. And so, of course, you don't have a gas engine that it's exploding and spewing out gas. And so the environmental impact must be tremendously better.
Yeah, and I've had a couple people ask me, well, is it really better because they're creating the batteries? Right. And I said, right now this is the best option to do my part. When I was considering purchasing this car, I really wanted to be on the cutting edge of seeing the world transition to this kind of transportation, and I believe this is the future. So, these cars don't have any maintenance to speak of. There's no oil changes. You do still have to change the tires and the windshield wiper blades. You don't even have to have the brakes checked till 150,000 miles. So there's really very little ongoing cost. And they're designing these cars to have 500,000 mile lifetimes. And they're working on one to go 1 million miles. Tesla wants to stop the whole idea of we buy a car every couple of years. And, I really like that as well. If there's a car that I can have that has lots of power and performance and does what I want it to do, and I don't have to dump a ton of money into maintenance and fuel, that's the perfect car for me.
Wow. The Tesla is going to change the world as we know it, I believe. And do you think that's a fair statement?
Yes, absolutely. And I think most people, even the other car manufacturers, don't completely recognize it yet. But, in the very near future, Tesla in 1 to 2 years is coming out with a cyber truck. So the truck version of this car, that'll start at $39,000.
Wow.
And, once we get into that kind of stuff, I've never loved cars. This car does over-the-air updates. So just like my cell phone, this car gets better and better every day. Since I've owned it, the braking has improved. The amount of miles I can get with it has improved. The features, it does a lot of driving by itself. That's improved. I can now watch YouTube and Netflix on the screen inside. So it's a longer term investment than the way we normally think about cars. And I do think it's going to change the world. And when these cars do finally get to the point where they are out of service or they've been in an accident and aren't repairable, those batteries are taken out and put into storage systems for solar.
Right.
So that makes me feel good too.
Yes, I know people who are buying the damaged, total Tesla, the battery pack, and using it in their RV. So absolutely, it's not like it's a one-time shot. I guess with the Prius, the obvious comparison for most of us is this in a Prius, which actually does have a gas engine and is not really a true electric car. Those are known that their battery packs are going to need replacing every 200,000 miles, and it's turning out to be more like 300,000. How is that on a Tesla? How long do you think the battery pack will last?
They're saying 500,000 miles right now.
500,000 miles?
And they're working on one to go 1,000,000 miles.
1,000,000 miles. It's a lifetime deal. You buy the car, you never spend any more money on it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've even been talking to my children about is, of course, this is a stretch. This is, stretch for most anyone. I'm a single mother. I saved for 4 years to buy this car. I knew I wanted it. I had committed to not being in debt, so I wanted to pay for it with cash, and I knew I just wouldn't get it until I had found enough ways to save money. And, I've talked to my children about that. Shout out to them, best kids ever. But that this could be a car that they have well into their married life with several children. And, can you imagine what a difference that would make in your life if you didn't have car payments and maintenance payments and humongous fuel costs from the day you get out of college?
Yeah, going back to the environmental impact, if you get 1,000,000 miles out of it, it doesn't matter almost how much you have to put in initially. It will be the best thing in the long run than anything else. Nothing else will even be in the ballpark with it. And we're going to do the switch over towards renewable energy sources, wind and tidal and solar. And so eventually the cost of electricity, the environmental impact and the cost will be down to nothing. I mean, just really low. It's there now, but we're still moving very slowly into that. So it really is fantastic. The car is incredibly intelligent. That's kind of what you were saying. And it seems to get more intelligent all the time.
I would say the driving that I do, the car does about 90% of the driving. So from on-ramp to off-ramp on the highway, if I'm navigating through the map on the screen, the car stays in the lane. It'll even change lanes if it can go faster still within the speed limit in the other lane. It'll avoid someone swerving in your lane, and it'll slow down and speed up with the pace of traffic. It's the most fabulous car to be in if you're in stop and go traffic. You're still required to touch the steering wheel from time to time to let the car know that you are still paying attention. That's still part of the regulations of cars that assist the driver. But, one really good thing, and I just was talking to somebody today about it whose child has type 1 diabetes. This car, if I stop touching the wheel, the car would keep reminding me, beep at me louder, flash at me louder. And if I still don't respond, it's going to turn on the flasher, slow down, and pull over. If there's a safe place to pull over. Otherwise, it'll stop in the middle of the lane. Now, can you imagine how amazing that is for someone who suffers with seizures or diabetes or even just has a heart attack or a seizure just without warning?
It happens all the time.
Yeah. And so that makes me feel good. The other thing I use it for is if I start not noticing that it's telling me to touch the wheel, then I realize I'm too tired to be on the road, even though the car's helping me. So I pull off the road and, find a nice little patch of ground to take a nap in. So, it also does parking, both parallel and regular parking space parking for you. And so all around just makes it really easy.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. Well, you gave me a couple examples of the way that it's improving. One had to do with bikes.
There's artificial intelligence, huge computers. I just heard today that Tesla's recorded 3 billion miles worth of driving data from people. So the cars are learning every day how to drive better, how to handle certain intersections appropriately. So the example I gave you was they actually went to the computer and they told all the cars, here's a picture of a bike on the back of a car. Send me pictures that you think are the same thing. And the whole fleet send it back pictures. Now a human can go through and double check that those really are the bikes on the back of a car. And now the whole fleet has become better at recognizing you don't have to swerve out of the way for a bike on the back of a car. That's something different than a bike that's riding alongside the road. So I think it's really amazing. They did the same thing with plastic bags floating across the road. They asked the fleet, do you see something similar to this? And the fleet sent back pictures. Now the cars aren't going to swerve out of the road if a plastic bag floats across the road. So I think it's amazing that the cars are exponentially learning. When I think of when I taught my kids how to drive and I was required by the state to drive with them for 50 hours before they could drive. And then I think, wow, this car has 3 billion miles that it's basing its driving knowledge of. It's not going to be very long till I'm going to feel a whole lot safer behind the wheel of a car that drives itself completely, which I don't think is going to be too many more years.
Right, I agree. I'd have to agree. Like most of you, and I know folks, when you think out there, when you're out there and you're thinking, you hear about the self-driving cars, those are the kinds you think of, things you think of. No car can figure out that this is a bike on a rack instead of somebody pulling out in front of you, but the car can learn that. And all the scenarios that our brains just like this master, it won't master that quick, but it will master it over time. And 3 billion miles, maybe it won't get them all, but it will after 6, it will after 10, it will after 100 billion miles. It'll have seen it all, and the computers will know this situation, do this, just like our brain picks it up, only faster and better. It's really pretty stunning. So folks, I'm going to break this video up into two, and this is my normal pattern. This was a long video to explain the Tesla and how it works. And so we're going to stop this video here, and now I'll go and show you the details, and we'll ask Kara how does she live in there? Of course, it's hard. I mean, it's a teeny tiny little car in there, and she's getting in there and living. And so we're going to find out all of that coming up in the next video. Stay tuned. It'll play automatically. And if not, just go find it. It'll be this Living in a Tesla Part 2. So thanks for watching the video. I know your mind has been blown all over the country, and people are watching this video and their minds are staggered by what they're hearing. Our world is going to be completely different in 20 years than it is today, and I can't even imagine what it's going to be. I think far better than we can imagine. I hope so. Okay, I'll stop there. If you got anything out of this video, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you later.